Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Jared here with another concert review. My first concert in 7 months, surprisingly, and I have a new little setup here, as you can see, recording in my car. Wanted to switch things up a little bit. Maybe isn't the greatest lighting, and probably should do these during the day, but regardless, got a new setup going on here, and I went to the Disturbed concert in Sunrise, Florida a few nights ago. Wanted to give you my thoughts on the whole entire show. I always do these every time I go to a concert. And let's just go ahead and dive right in. So, Disturbed is definitely a band that I am a fan of. And I went through their discography a few years ago. They are like a heavy metal, electronic kind of rap band, but it's mainly like heavy metal. And I never realized how electronic and rap they really are until I went to this concert. But I I actually wanted to go see them last year in Orlando at the Kia Center, but I just never made it over there, and I actually missed out on a few different concerts, like just trying to get my financials in order and things of that nature. So when I saw they were coming to Sunrise and Daughtry was opening, I thought it'd be a great concert to go to, especially with my mom because we're both fans of Disturbed and Daughtry. Went through Daughtry's discography a few years ago as well. Been a fan of him ever since he was on American Idol, and I'm glad that he's still producing music and he's still going along, and he's been successful. Definitely had some good songs, some good hits, and everything. So looked at the tickets, and luckily they weren't super expensive, which I was definitely very happy to see that. I didn't really know where exactly I wanted to sit for this concert. It's at the Amerant Bank Arena where the Florida Panthers play, and I haven't I hadn't been there in 6 years. Last time I was there it was for Kiss back in 2019. Second time I ever saw Kiss. The first time I ever went to this venue was back in 2016. AC/DC with Axl Rose. So it had been a few years. Back when I went, though, a few years ago, it's called the BB&T Center, and the Florida Panthers had not won a title yet. So this was going to be a little bit different in that regard. But yeah, the tickets weren't super expensive, which was super awesome to see. I ended up going with lower bowl tickets right behind the mix, and they're about $100. Not too bad. I had never sat behind the mix before, so that was going to be a new experience. And another new experience, which I never realized until I was actually at the concert, was this was my first ever heavy metal show. I've never actually been to a heavy metal show. I've seen Kiss, Guns N' Roses, Buckethead, and Slash, Primus. I've seen a lot of these different artists, but never been to like just a straight up heavy metal show. And I never even thought about it until I was there. So that was definitely a new experience for me. So I definitely wanted to get in the middle of the venue, so I had a good distribution visually and audibly of everything, because I've sat on the side so many times at these concerts, and a lot of the times the sound is just not very great, just because you're getting just one feed basically, uh, for the most part. So I've been really trying to, at these concerts, get in the middle, and wanted to get a seat for sure. So anyway, lower bowl, and I figured it would be a perfectly fine view, but I was a little bit worried about the mix. So I went ahead and bought those tickets about a week prior. I was interested on the day to see if the tickets were gonna drop or not, or how that was gonna go. I always kind of check that just out of curiosity. And I will say that the day of the concert, the tickets did drop, and floor tickets went from like 150 down to like around 120, 100, around that area. So kind of like what I was paying for the lower bowl. But yeah, I was totally content with where we were sitting. And yeah, so the day of, went ahead and drove on down there. Luckily, wasn't too bad of traffic, and got over there and parked. Parking was $48, and that's something that you could buy with your ticket. I decided not to, and I don't remember how much it would have been with the ticket, but the person that was doing the parking told me that $48 was the cheapest thing around there. And they could have just been bullshitting and just saying that. They probably were, to be honest with you, but that's what parking was right next to the venue. So got out of the car. The weather was good, even though it's an indoor arena. We went and kind of just walked around the arena a little bit. Saw a lot of Florida Panthers stuff around, on the outside of the arena, and the fans were starting to gather at the metal detectors in line. And that's where one of the first things I noticed was different about the show. I mentioned how it was my first ever heavy metal show. And one of the first things that rang a bell to me in regards to that was the fact there was just so much black as far as clothing goes. Lots of black fishnet stockings, lots of like tattoos and piercings, and just black hair, and black makeup and leather, things like that. I might have already said leather, I don't even fucking remember, but that was something I was like, oh, this is different for sure. So that was of note. Went ahead and got in the arena fairly quickly. Went to the merchandise first thing, and I was curious to see how the merchandise was going to be, if they're going to have anything for Daughtry or if it's just going to be straight Disturbed. And that leads me kind of to my next point. There was another opening act called Nothing More, so it was kind of a 3-band lineup for this concert. I had never heard of Nothing More and knew nothing about them, but they had some merchandise as well as Daughtry, and of course Disturbed. So all 3 bands had merchandise. Nothing More had a couple different shirts. Daughtry had a couple different shirts, and then of course Disturbed had numerous different shirts. Disturbed also had a poster. They had a vinyl record. I want to say they had like a CD. They also had like hoodies and stuff. They had a good amount of merchandise for sure. Nothing More, I believe, also had something that was like signed by all the band members too. Got in line, and my tradition at all these concerts is to always get a concert shirt that is specific to the show, that hopefully has the city and the date on it. And the thing about this one that was different was I wanted to get a Daughtry shirt as well. And these shirts are very expensive. They're like $45 each. So that would have been a lot of money. But my mom was nice enough to get me a Daughtry shirt as a birthday gift. And I went ahead and bought my Disturbed shirt. Even though it maybe wasn't my favorite. I'm saying the Disturbed shirt wasn't maybe my favorite design and my favorite shirt overall. It still had what I wanted in a tour shirt, as far as like it had the city and the date, and I like to have the year as well. And I always try to get those like 3 things, and that was like the only shirt as far as Disturbed goes that had all 3 things for me. But they had some pretty decent merchandise, I thought. Good variety. And the Daughtry shirt is cool too. So I went ahead and got those things. There was this couple in front of us that got so much merchandise. They bought like 4 or 5 shirts. And no judgment. Fucking, what is going on? And I'm not judging them at all, but yeah, that's just so much money. And like, if you can afford that and you're cool with that, I mean, go for it. Fuck, made of tears. Anyway, so yeah, I went ahead and just got the 1 shirt, and then my mom was nice enough to buy me the Daughtry shirt. We went ahead and got to our seats, and the view was good. The view was good for sure, and I wasn't surprised about that. It was really cool to look up and see the Florida Panthers championship banner that was now up there, and the crowd started to file in, of course. Being behind the mix initially, it didn't seem like it was going to be a problem at all. And we also, one thing that I was really conscious about was trying to get the middle of the row instead of like the ends of the row, so you don't have to deal as much with people getting up and down and constantly just walking past you and shit. That's so fucking annoying for me at a concert, honestly at any event. And I will say, overall, sitting in the middle of the row is the way to go for sure, because we didn't have that issue the whole entire night. So happy about that. Now, Nothing More started right before 6:30, And man, I would say that their sound, like their production at first was very, very loud. It like kind of scared the shit out of me. It was just like so loud. And they went ahead and broke into their set. And I'll say they were solid. I won't say they really moved the needle for me, honestly. But I mean, they were a good like little warm-up act. I thought their singer sounded very similar to David Draymond of Disturbed, which was interesting. And as far as the singer goes, he was shirtless. He has like a lot of, it seems like he has a lot of tattoos. He has like a big tattoo on his like torso, which kind of makes it look like he's wearing a shirt, but it was just a tattoo. He's also barefoot the whole entire performance, which was weird. But one thing that was interesting about that particular show is David Draymond actually came out and performed with them for like one of the songs. So that was the first time we got to see David Draymond on the night. And yeah, also toward the end of their set, they like all the band members like played the drums and even like had a little interactive part where they kind of like brought one of the drums out to the crowd and kind of just sat it like the crowd was kind of holding the drum up while the band members played it or whatever. But they were fine. I thought some of the people in the crowd were digging them a little bit. It wasn't anything crazy. But yeah, they played for about, I don't know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And then after that, of course, it was time for Daughtry. There's a little intermission, and then Daughtry went out. And I have Daughtry's set list here. So super cool that, like, once again, that he was opening for Disturbed. And that he's still going along there. So he opened with The Reckoning, and then he went on to Changes Are Coming. I was super happy to hear him play Changes Are Coming because that's one of my favorite Daughtry songs, and wasn't expecting him to play it. I'll say, as far as this Daughtry concert went, I thought there's a really good light show to his concert. And also there was this like smoke that they did. It seemed like every single song where like 4 smoke machines would just like would go off and the smoke would go up in the air, which I just thought was funny because, like I said, it was like almost every song, like once per song it would happen. He did World on Fire, and then this next one was a real surprise to me, Separate Ways, Worlds Apart, which is a Journey cover. That was so awesome for me personally, because that's my favorite Journey song. Had no idea he was going to play that, and I thought they did a great job on it. Really cool. He did The Day I Die, and then he busted into a couple old classics like It's Not Over, which is one of my favorite Daughtry songs. It's the first song off of his first album. Such a classic, so nostalgic. Brings me back to, 06, 07, that era when I was just a kid. And then he did Home, which was, arguably his most popular song. He did that acoustically and had everyone kind of like turn their phone flashlights on. It was a real interesting experience watching him play Home acoustically all by himself on the stage. And that's one song that I hear at my job all the time, and it's very nostalgic too. I remember they used to always play that song every time someone got voted out on American Idol, and I assumed he would play that song, and of course he did. He did The Dam, and then actually, that reminded me, I wanted to move back 1 second to, I mentioned The Day I Die, that song. That's actually a new song that hasn't been released yet, and it's going to be released soon, according to him. So that was really cool to hear a new song that hadn't been released yet. But then for the night song was Pieces, and then he did Heavy as the Crown with band introductions. I think it's funny that, like, he has a song called Heavy as the Crown, and so does Linkin Park. And then he ended with Artificial. He played for about an hour, and I'll say, I actually thought he played maybe a little bit too much newer material. A little bit of a gripe there, a little nitpicky thing. I thought he just maybe did a little bit too much new material, and he even commented, Jesus Christ, I can't get this fucking thing straight. Technical difficulties with the new studio. He actually did comment on it at one point to the crowd, like sarcastically, like, "All right, we're gonna play something old because I know you all are like, I'm sick of the new shit." Um, but I thought especially toward the end of the set, he played decent amount of new stuff. Maybe he could have sprinkled in a little bit of more older stuff in there. I thought it is cool how he threw a cover in there. He did talk to the crowd multiple times throughout the show, and even gave a little social commentary, his opinions as far as like, um, he was saying something to the effect of like, nobody should ever tell you to do with your body. No one should ever tell you what to do with your body, and just gave you a little insight on who he is as a person, and even mentioned like suicide, stuff like that. Like before Home, he mentioned if he didn't write this song, he might not be here today. Stuff like that. He's been through a lot of shit. Personally, we know about, but good show. He sounded good. He still got it for sure. And he sounds like the studio version. He's done a really good job taking care of his voice, and he's got a good rock voice. And man, he he wears all black. He's got like a black tank top and black pants, and he's got like these tattoos on his arms, where his arms are just all black. And I think he wears even like black eyeliner, has like his nails painted black. He's very into the black color. But super awesome to see Daughtry. One of those artists that I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever see him unless it was at like a festival or something, but got to see him open for Disturbed, so that was really cool. And I thought his band sounded fine too. So that was Daughtry. Of course, there's gonna be an intermission after that, and then it was time for the main act of the night, Disturbed. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip over to my Disturbed set list, and we're gonna get into that show. Now, this whole show is supposed to be pinned. It's the Sickness 25th. Fuck me to tears. It's the Sickness 25th anniversary tour. The Sickness is their first studio album. It's got to be their most popular album that they've ever done. It came out obviously in 2000, and that's really, their debut is really what helped them just reach new levels that they had never reached before, and really got them mainstream. And man, on all the rock radios back in the early 2000s, you would always hear Disturbed, Down with the Sickness, Prayer. Some of those songs are just such classics for sure, even for like people nowadays who don't listen to rock and don't know much about rock. A lot of people will say like, "Oh, I've heard Down with the Sickness though." Yeah, of course I've heard that. But I had no idea what to expect. I don't follow Disturbed like that, so I went into this with like zero expectations really. But I did know that they were going to be doing like two different sets, that they were going to be doing the Sickness album in its entirety, and then they were going to be doing hits on another set. So they open up with the Sickness album, and they open up with Voices. It was interesting just to see the production that they have. I just really wasn't expecting there to be such a production with them, I guess, which might sound crazy to a lot of people, but like I said, I didn't have any expectations. I didn't really know what to expect. But the intro was super cool. They had just a big long white curtain, and you could just like see the silhouettes of the band members, and then eventually like the curtain went up and you could see all the band members except for David Draiman. And then next thing you know, he gets wheeled out on a stretcher, and he's in a straitjacket with a mask, and it's a Hannibal Lecter intro, which I'm sure has probably been done before by like other artists or something, and I'm sure Disturbed has done it before too. I don't think this is like a special one-off occasion, but that was a pretty sick intro, to be honest with you. I thought that was super cool, and crowd went crazy for that, of course. So he gets out of the stretcher and takes off the mask, and then he just busts into Voices. And man, Voices is a song that I liked, but after hearing it live and seeing it live in person, I absolutely love this song now. I never realized how truly good of a song that is, and that was a really awesome first song for the concert. Then they go into The Game, and then Stupefy, one of their biggest ones. And then the fourth song, Down with the Sickness. And at the time, I was really, really surprised they were playing it this early. But then I remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. This song is very early on in this particular album, but that's their most popular song. And man, definitely the song that the crowd was most into it the whole entire show. Um, but man, David Draiman sounds really, really good still. He sounds like the studio version. You know, I'm a big diehard Guns N' Roses fan. They always talk about Axl's rasp or lack thereof. And I'll say David Draiman he's still got rasp, even though, you know, he's been doing this a while and he's older. His voice sounds so good. And he might not have like, I haven't really watched like old performances of them, to be honest with you. So I don't really know their energy levels from back in the day. But either way, I'm sure his energy is not comparable to what it was 25 years ago. But still, I thought they put on a good show overall. They did Violence Fetish, Fear, Numb, another Linkin Park name song. It's from that era too. Then they did Want. This was a very interesting part of the show because David Draiman's son came out and performed with him. And I don't know how old he is. He looked like he was like, I don't know, a little 10-year-old or something. But he did perform the song with them. For me, it was hard to hear his son live. But on my recording that I did on my vlog, which you can check that out, it's my last video that I uploaded, you can hear his son better, I thought, on the video. But that was just interesting. I don't know if they do that every show, but that was super, super cool that his son is coming out there and performing with him and they're making those memories. And he did a good job. Like David kind of just like, you know, had him follow him around the stage and they just did a little duet together. They did Conflict, and then this is another really interesting part of the show. They did Shout, which is a Tears for Fears cover. One of my favorite Disturbed songs, even covers, whatever you want to call it. But it was super interesting because they brought out Elias Soriano from Nonpoint. I'm not familiar with him or Nonpoint, but still, regardless, it's cool to see special guests out there. And I know they don't do this for every show. I did read online that this was like a special thing for sure. So I got a video of that, the Shout 2000 version. So that was super cool just to see a little duet with this guy Elias. Just something special about this particular show. Dropping Plates, Meaning of Life. And it was interesting, they did... What the fuck? I've never even heard this phone sound on my phone, in my car before. Man, this has been quite the video so far. Holy shit. Alright, I'm gonna have to answer that later because we have got to finish this fucking review. But yeah, I thought it was super interesting how... This shit won't stop. There we go. Oh my god. There's a little snippet in the middle of this where he did Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. And man, that was just so... I didn't expect that either. That was kind of random. But it was also cool because my mom got me into Ozzy Osbourne and she got me into Crazy Train and all that stuff back in the day. And just another one of those things that her and I connected on in this concert. And the intro before this particular song, David was brought out in an electric chair, and he was in another straight jacket, like orange jumpsuit, and they electrocuted him multiple times before this song started. So that was another cool, like, I don't know, just once again, the production value. There's a lot of just production that I didn't expect. I've never seen production like this in a concert other than like Kiss. It reminded me of Kiss. Not exactly the same, but I'm just saying as far as like a production value, there's just a lot of fire and like pyrotechnics and fog and just little show things like him being electrocuted in an electric chair and then blood coming down from his head and him performing the final song just with blood all over him is just such a, I don't know, it's just entertaining and fun and funny like aspect of the show. It has nothing to do with the music or how the band is performing or anything. It's just It's just strictly part of the show, part of the production, which is just really awesome. And I did think it was interesting how he did the Ozzy Osbourne part too, because like he kind of reminds me of Ozzy Osbourne in a way, and it's also just, once again, to go back to the heavy metal aspect of this whole thing, it's just interesting to see like a heavy metal show, because like they're not a Guns N' Roses, they're not an AC/DC, they're not any of the, they're not a Kiss, but they're more in the same vein as like a Metallica or like a Korn thing, like bands like that. So that was something that I was definitely thinking about. So I did another intermission, and then they came out and did the second set, which is called The Greatest Hits. And I don't really like that title for this second part of the set, because I don't think a lot of these songs are really their greatest hits. But they did I Will Not Break, and then they did 10,000. I'm not saying all these songs are not their greatest hits, but I'm just saying some of them. But they did 10,000 Fists, which is my favorite Disturbed song. So happy they did that one. But I will say, this was the only song out of the whole set that I could remember. I was like, they're definitely playing this down. Oh my God, I just spit like a motherfucker. I'm just spitting facts. I just thought on 10,000 Fists, not that I think, actually I know, they played this song down at least one key, and it did not sound right. Like they purposely play it down a key or two, and I just didn't think it sounded right. It didn't sound bad, but definitely didn't sound right. It sounded a little awkward to me, but still cool. They played my favorite Disturbed song. Then they played Bad Man, which is one of their newer songs. Once again, that's like a song that I'm like, is that really a greatest hit of theirs? I don't think so. But that's a song that I never cared for, but after hearing it live, I'm a fan of it now. I also thought it was interesting during the greatest hits portion of their set when they had the giant inflatable The Guy ripping his chest open. That was another cool production aspect of it. They did Land of Confusion, which is a Genesis cover, and my mom picked up on that very quickly. I didn't know that was a Genesis cover. They did Indestructible. This is one, I'm not a fan of Indestructible, to be honest with you, but this is one of those songs that like, I'm not trying to be like overly negative, but this is one of those songs that I'm just like, I think sometimes Disturbed falls, they have maybe a little bit of an issue with some of their songs sounding too similar to each other, and I think Indestructible is like a prime example of that one, where it's like, this one doesn't do much for me. It just sounds like another one of those like run-of-the-mill Disturbed songs. But luckily they followed it with The Sound of Silence, which is one of the highlights of the whole night for sure. Honestly, the highlight of the night for me. Such a personal song for me and my mom in relation to my dad that passed away a few years ago. He was a huge fan of the song. My mom is a huge fan of this song. The song is just so powerful and emotional. It's one of their most popular songs. It is a cover, but it is one of their most popular songs. I wasn't 100% sure if they're going to play it, but I figured they probably would. It's the only slow song you're going to get out of this whole entire show, which is fine, but it was interesting. They had the guitar player playing the piano. They lit the piano on fire. They had multiple musicians come out and do kind of like the orchestral element of it. Sitting in front of like sheet music or whatever. Man, just such an emotional, powerful moment in my life that I'll never forget with my mom. Then they did The Light, and before they did The Light, this was another unique thing about this concert, was they brought out a couple fans named Eric and Amanda, and Eric actually proposed to Amanda on the stage, and then they sat out on the stage and watched the performance of The Light together. So that was another one of those moments that like was just so unique to our concert. And then they ended with Inside the Fire, and then they were done, and the outro music was Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash. And that was Disturbed in Sunrise. Great show, great production, crowd was into it. That place holds about 20,000 people, and I'll say during the opening acts, it was definitely patchy, and I was worried it was going to be like that during Disturbed, but I thought during Disturbed it was really packed full. and I was happy to see that for sure. And yeah, I mean, only other main thing I'll say about this concert was it's just interesting how, like, one of my observations that I made was, like, back in the day, it's like everyone always had like cigarette lighters that they would do during the show, and it's like now you have everyone just has their phone flashlights on. It seems like that's like a consistent theme that you will see with concerts nowadays, is like bands like saying pull out your phone, pull out your light on your phone. I mean, even Daughtry did it before the show. And it's just interesting how, like, I was watching a few people up on the left nosebleeds or in the left box that were like just interacting with the other side of the crowd with their phone lights and having them do like the same motions that they were doing with their phone lights. And that was super interesting. And one other little gripe that I wanted to mention, I mentioned how David Draymond came out during Nothing More and how that was like interesting. This is just a little nitpicky thing, but I actually wish he didn't come out there with Nothing More. And I wish that the first time that like I and the crowd was laying eyes on him was when they wheeled him out in the stretcher for the opening of Disturbed, because that just would have been so much more just iconic and insane to me. There's just a little part of me that's like, oh, well, I saw him for a song earlier, so it's not as insane, if that makes sense. Just not anything crazy. I still thought the bit was awesome, and I thought all the bits were awesome. But just if I were producing the show, that's something that I would make sure didn't happen or whatever. But it's still cool. I thought all the acts really supported each other. Disturbed mentioned Nothing More and Daughtry, and thanked them for performing. And also Daughtry was very complimentary of Nothing More. So I thought all the artists really supported each other, and I thought that was really cool. So yeah, overall, just great show and a night that I'll never ever forget. And I'm glad that everything went well. So if you have a chance to see them, please go see them. I'm sure that I'm gonna go see them again at some point, especially after this concert. So hope you all enjoyed my review. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.